Welcome to the draft ranking series. It's draft season, so now it's time to talk about who is the best of the best. The safeties wrap up this draft ranking series, and while it may be one of the weaker positions, it is also one of the more controversial. If you're new, subscribe to the channel as I'm going to continue draft content all year long. But for now, I'm Chase Keller, and welcome to the top 10 safeties in the 2024 NFL Draft. Enjoy. Before I go through the top 10, there are two safeties that just barely missed out on this list. So those guys are Miami's James Williams and Wake Forest's Malik Mustafa. So those guys are 11 and 12, but we got a top 10 list to go over, so let's get started. Beginning with number 10, I have a guy who might be playing cornerback in the NFL, but Auburn's Jalen Simpson did play safety in college. His reasons for switching might become obvious later on, but for now, he's number 10 on the safety list. Simpson brings forth fantastic anticipation out of both man and zone coverage looks. His ability to explode towards the route and provide great closing burst is one to love. He also has the deep speed to go stride for stride out of transitions, and his ball skills also pop out really well going deep, with his great ball tracking and above average length contributing to that. Finally, he has that positional and alignment versatility to play both corner and safety at the next level. I could see him translating to corner in the league, and it is primarily because of the negatives I'm about to say. Simpson brings a very lean frame to the league at 6 foot 179 pounds, which is already lean for a corner, but especially lean for a safety. As a result, his play strength is under average and he can get knocked around too often. Teams will want to bulk him up, but he barely did it in college already. Finally, he doesn't provide a lot in run support because of that play strength, but also because of his inconsistent angles and gap control. Simpson is a contender to switch positions, but because of the amount of safety experience he has, I like him as number 10 on this list. He receives a C grade, which translates over to a mid-4th round grade and a 64 overall. At number 9, there is a guy who is undrafted on the consensus board, but he's ways away from that on my board. Evan Williams out of Oregon is number 9 here. He comes in with a lot of traits that teams will love, but also a lot of traits that might turn teams away. Here's why he may be seen as a lower end prospect. He has pretty lackluster deep speed and can't recover if he gets beat. He always stays behind the receiver, and that's where most of his allowed catches come from. He's also an inconsistent tackler with a 15.3% career knock for missed tackle rate. He does also struggle to deconstruct blocks, and he has missed tackles trying to jump off those. On top of all this, he plays like a linebacker but is already undersized for the safety position. But with all of those negatives, we also receive a lot of positives for his game. And it really shines in his short field ability, which I think is shown all throughout his game. His fantastic footwork and above average elusiveness help him change direction quickly and cover quicker routes. He also provides full effort until the whistle, and his above average explosiveness also contributes to quick ends to plays. He also provides fantastic play strength on top of this bit, which shows in his ability to not get knocked off balance easily and his elite hit power on his tackles. Finally, while he did play a limited number of man coverage snaps with Oregon, his anticipation was very good on those plays. Williams does have more positives and more negatives than your normal prospect, but I think that turns out to be a positive thing. He receives the same exact grade as Simpson, C grade, mid-4th round talent, 64 overall. I've heard very good things about this prospect, but I don't see Georgia safety Tyke Smith being better than number 8. He is the first of 2 Georgia safeties here, and while I do think he provides a lot for teams, his negatives are very concerning. But let's begin positively here. Smith is an explosive athlete who transitions out of his back pedal extremely well, allowing for nice anticipation at times. He has the elusiveness to mirror receivers in man coverage, and his zone instincts and recognition is above average. He also provides solid play strength as primarily seen on his elite hit power. He also provides solid deep speed for the position, but it is nothing special. With all of these traits combined, he brings forth nice hybrid linebacker and safety upside for the NFL. So Smith does have a lot of positives, and I was satisfied with him on film, but most of these negatives have to do with how he might not translate well to the league. Just to put it straightforward, his zone transitions are pretty bad. He's very late on switching assignments, and it just seems like he's scared to venture around his zone and makes plays outside of the middle of it. He also has a career missed tackle rate of 14.1%, which isn't crazy high, but it's just super inconsistent on film. His smaller arm length also takes away upside to impact with his ball skills, and his pursuit and run support is also just average at best. So Smith has these bad translation concerns that I don't like at all, but I do think he brings a good amount of value already, and that's why he's 8. He ups the grades here as he receives a C+, 65 overall, and an early 4th round grade. Now, at number 7, I have a controversial pick as I am a lot lower on this guy than your average person. Miami safety Cameron Kinchens is number 7 on my list. I'm also lower on his teammate James Williams, but I just think with Kinchens, there are too many lingering concerns. To put it blunt and kind of harsh, Kinchens is just awful in man coverage. He barely has the elusiveness to keep up with receivers, he doesn't have the long speed to operate as a deep coverage safety, and he even struggles against quicker tight ends. There are also just some mental concerns with him as he commits somewhere and doesn't look back. If he leaves his zone, he doesn't go back even if it's necessary. On top of these, he's just super inconsistent overall. Up to this point, I have made Kinchens sound like just a terrible safety, and I promise it's not like that. There's a reason he's still on this list anyways. His strengths start with his phenomenal zone instincts and halves and quarters looks. His play recognition is elite, and that's the main reason why scouts love him so much. He also has great ball skills that show in his career production of 11 interceptions and 14 pass breakups in only 3 years. His athleticism primarily shows in his explosiveness and his short burst. He shows very nice tackling technique and is one of the better tackling safeties in this class, and he brings solid zone transitions when he's not committed to a specific spot. Kinchens isn't as good to me as he is to your normal analyst or scout, but he is still number 7 on my list anyways. He receives a C+ grade, an early 4th round nod, and a 65 overall, just like Tyke Smith. As we continue into the exact same grade yet again, we have one of the most polarizing safety prospects, actually, the most polarizing safety prospect in Maryland safety Bo Brady. If you've watched my channel for a few months, you would know that I am higher on Brady than most people already, but I think he's more polarizing after watching his film. So Brady comes out as a top safety for me because he's got athletic and physical traits that work so well together. Athletically, he's got the deep speed that carries through on deep routes, he's very aggressive when he's coming off the edge, and he works well laterally. Physically, he rarely gets knocked off balance by receivers, he's a super hard hitter when squared up with the ball carrier, and he's able to deconstruct blocks well off the edge and make an impact in run support. Because of this combination, he's got super heavy upside for the league. So, Brady has the athletic traits, he has the physical traits, but he lacks those mental traits and the consistency to be a huge impact player. Brady misses a lot of tackles for beginners with a 17% career missed tackle rate, one of the highest in this class. This is likely due to the bad angles that he takes in pursuit, allowing for him to get behind the guy. He also needs to develop a better feel for larger zones, as when by himself, his instincts don't stick out whatsoever. He also has iffy reaction time and short burst, and he often bites on combo routes as a result. Finally, his biggest concern is that he just has no cover 1 upside and will be pretty scheme specific in the NFL. So just like Evan Williams out of Oregon, there are a lot of positives and a lot of negatives, but Brady's crazy high upside puts him in 6th. As I said earlier, he has the same exact grade as the last 2 guys, C+, 65 overall, early 4th round nod. As we venture into the top 5, I have a couple intriguing takes, but I don't think that USC safety Kalen Bullock at number 5 is that interesting. He's consensus safety number 4, and I totally understand that, as he was fun to watch on film. Bullock's positives begin with his athleticism, as he's a super explosive athlete who can click and close extremely fast. He also has the deep speed to go vertical and stay attached with faster receivers. He also has phenomenal ball skills and ball hawking ability that shine everywhere on the field, especially going deep. He also takes on great pursuit angles and has that aggressive downhill nature, which adds with his ability to diagnose the run well. Speaking of, he's got good tackling technique and is one of the better tackling safeties on this list. So Bullock can contribute all around, but he's also got those scattered negatives that take away some NFL upside. He's got mediocre play strength, which can be assumed with his lean 6 foot 188 pound frame. It's mainly shown when going for tackles and his ability to wrap up in his bad leg drive. He also needs to develop a better feel for larger zones, and he won't be a great cover 1 safety at the next level. Also contributing to cover 1 looks is that he drifts too far in these zones, leaving a lot of the middle of the field open. Finally, he tends to bite on combo routes a little too often for comfort. Bullock is a fighter at the safety position, and we can just hope that he succeeds at the next level even if his upside isn't that high. Bullock is also a C+ player, but instead of being an early 4th round nod, he is a late 3rd round nod and a 66 overall player. Okay, now here is where the takes get very intriguing. I have the consensus safety number 16 as my number 4. That sounds crazy, and that player is Ohio State safety Josh Proctor. I am honestly so confused on why no one really likes him as much as I do. I even had to post about it on my Twitter. Go follow that, by the way, link in bio. Anyways, here is why I enjoyed his tape so much. His anticipation is among the best in this class when coming out of zone looks, whether that be cover 1 or even quarters. Speaking of those cover 1 looks, he had some fantastic reps as a deep safety, and I don't think I watched a single negative play where he was the one going deep. In halves and quarters looks, he does have some great zone transitions. All of these zones were seen on tape, by the way, as he was able to perform them all while at Ohio State. He also has good lateral ability to jump around blocks instead of physically deconstructing them, and he's fast to diagnose the run, often being able to avoid upfield blocks before they come. That is a lot of positives about Proctor, and I guess I have to explain myself when I have something that's a lot different from the media. But yeah, there are some weaknesses in his game, and these are probably why people don't like him. He's got some pretty bad athletic concerns. His deep speed is fairly lackluster, and he can get burned on those vertical routes. His ball skills could also use some improvement, as the production wasn't particularly there, but his average arm length and terrible vertical don't bring on much upside. He also is just an inconsistent tackler and has missed 14.4% of his career attempts. Finally, he just doesn't have any elite traits, but some are great. Even after looking at these negatives and seeing some of those athletic concerns, I still don't understand why he's being sought out as a UDFA in some people's eyes. I see him as an early 3rd round talent, which is a B- and a 68 overall player. And another interesting ranking is how I am very high on Utah safety Cole Bishop, who almost was number 2 on my list. He obviously settles for number 3, but I really liked his tape more than his counterpart Sione Vaki. FYI, I really did not like Vaki's tape at all. Anyways, Bishop is a bigger safety at 6'2", 206 pounds, and that actually provides a lot for him. He does bring along some physical traits, with the one I noticed most being that he absolutely packs a punch in his hits. But I honestly saw more value in his athletic ability. He's got the explosiveness to click and close fast in the pass, but also pull the trigger fast in run support. He also has some quick and efficient footwork where he is able to start and stop fast all around the field. On top of all of this, he is a gritty player who will not stop until the whistle blows. Bishop has that intriguing combination of both athletic and physical traits, and you combine that with upside and you have a pretty good prospect. But what goes up must come down. Here are Bishop's weaknesses. First off, Bishop is often late on his zone transitions and has stiff hips trying to transition and explode towards a new assignment. He also just leaves too much space in both off-man coverage and zone coverage, giving receivers too much of a cushion, but that might be the play call. Finally, he does tend to take awful angles in pursuit at times, and that will lead to missed tackles at the next level. So Bishop is a fun safety prospect who combines a lot of different traits to make him number 3 on this list. He gets a late second round grade, which is a B grade and a 70 overall. Coming in at the runner-up, this guy almost got passed by the third safety, but also almost made his way up to number 1. That safety is Georgia's Javon Bullard. Bullard was the first safety that I watched in full, and I'm going to be honest, the hype surrounding him is real. The 3-year Georgia prospect showed great development throughout his time at Georgia, and that begins with his mental traits, having some amazing zone instincts and play recognition. He also is a great coverage guy going deep, and he has both the deep speed and the ball tracking ability to stay locked in on a receiver at consistent rates. Even out of man coverage, Bullard shows fantastic anticipation and a quick trigger, but this is just average in zone looks. On top of all of this, he puts on some great run support potential because of his very solid tackling ability and his good angles that he takes in pursuit of the ball carrier. So Bullard does show nice value in zone coverage, man coverage, and even run support. So how does he lose? Well, he has the long speed, but not particularly the short burst, as his explosiveness is under average for the position. This is primarily due to his hip tightness out of zone coverage. He also works best out of halves or quarters looks, as he isn't nearly as efficient when playing the deep safety. Finally, his zone transitions are mediocre, and this is yet another nod to his hip tightness. Bullard comes out as a high floor, high ceiling kind of guy, and that's what we really need in a weak positional group. He doesn't quite get the number 1 grade though. He is the same grade as Bishop though, which is a B grade, 70 overall, late second round nod. And finally, the number 1 safety in the 2024 NFL Draft is none other than Minnesota safety Tyler Nubin. He reigns victorious in a weak class, and while last year he would have been number 3 on my board, he's still a stud. The zone instincts that Nubin provides are the best in this class in my opinion. He knows exactly when to pull the trigger, and even past that trigger, he's super explosive and is able to click and close at very fast rates. He functions best as the only deep safety covering sideline to sideline, but he really works well in every single look. He also has some very good arm length that produces great ball skills, and that shows in his collegiate production, that being 13 interceptions and 11 pass breakups. He also has good lateral ability and footwork, which gives him man coverage upside on top of being efficient in every zone look already. And even with all of this, he's alignment versatile, sometimes lining up as a linebacker or a corner. So Nubin has a boatload of positives coming in, but he isn't a special safety prospect, and that does show in his negatives. First off, he needs to pull the trigger faster when it comes to zone transitions. He might have stiff hips at times, and he's just late to transition over to the next assignment. He also can be late at diagnosing the run, which leads to bad angles taken and just being late to the party. As a result, he can be very inconsistent with his pursuit and his gap control, and honestly, he's just more valuable as a coverage defender and not as valuable as a run defender. And even with the concerns in run support, there is a reason why Nubin is number 1. He is a great prospect. He receives a B+ grade, which is a mid-second round talent, and a 71 overall. So, those are my top 10 safeties in the 2024 NFL Draft. What do you think of my list? What is your top 10? Let me know in the comments section below. Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.